Welcome to our Happy New Year from Pittsburgh Sportsline to all of you. Our last show of 2014. I want to give a special shout out before we get into our normal stuff. Carol from the Market District. Look at that. She got Pittsburgh Sportsline on there. Zach, where's a photo of this? Devin Shea, take a photo. Where are we at here?
Okay.
Welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline.
I'm only going to get the cookie.
Unless I bomb it.
Okay, well then, since we're doing shameless promotions here at the beginning, Marianne from Azazu cut my hair today, and she's going to be at our show on January 5th with her husband.
Hey, Bill Boyce Jr., ready? Oh, look. There you go. Oh, the third time's the charm.
And that's that cookie, but thank you there. Welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline, and if here we go. Devin Shea's making his appearance to get us all in this shot.
Hey, now he is.
Thanks, Devin.
He's the man.
He's the best man. He just won an award with BPTV. He did over 100 shows, only 61 of them Pittsburgh Sportsline, but he's doing double duty tonight. Wow. He's on the camera. He come in and took photos like our photographers. He will get 2 slices of this cookie.
And you find him out front selling popcorn if you drive by.
In about an hour. Definitely. Well, in case you didn't know, we're very festive here. We're celebrating. It's Pittsburgh Sportsline. I'm Al Levine, the Talking Machine, Chip the Prophet Hayner, Smoking Jim Frazier, and Zach Brenner, Little Z, Brenner Contracting, Amish Assassin, and anything else I might have forgot. Well, thank you for watching us on Verizon 32 everywhere, Comcast 7 only in Bethel Park, and on YouTube. This is our last record. No, we still got another day, but the last record I'll announce for this year, 3,730 likes on Facebook. So thank you very much for all that. I appreciate it, especially the last flurry of likes that got us over 3,700. We appreciate it. And we start with what's on our mind. And I'm going to ask Zach Brenner, what's on your mind?
Well, Al Levine, the Talking Machine, what's on my mind tonight is first and foremost, as you can always see, folks, I'm all about supporting the troops and the men and women who serve this great nation of ours that I call home. That's first. And they only give me one thing, but I never listen. So the other things that are on my mind this evening, while they dig into that glorious-looking cookie cake, Smoking Jim, his palms are sweating over there. He can't wait to get some of that chocolate. But what's on my mind is we always have a discussion about MVP here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I was very vocal. And if you want to take exception to anything that me and my esteemed colleagues say, you can call in at 412-831-3304. Don't be shy. Don't hesitate. Call in. But what the MVP stands for to me is most valuable player, which means the one player that you can ill afford to lose on a 53-man roster, that is the NFL and this Pittsburgh Steelers team. Le'Veon Bell got cracked in the knee, and it looked a lot worse than it turned out to be, but it's just a hyperextension, whatever that means. No torn ligament damage. But when I say MVP, if on Saturday Le'Veon Bell is unable to go, the Pittsburgh Steelers are still going to be in that game. And why are we going to be in that game? Because we have the franchise quarterback, one of the elite quarterbacks in the National Football League, and Ben Roethlisberger, who is not the highest paid quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. I think Jay Cutler might have got paid more money this season than Big Ben, and that's a travesty in itself, if you want to know the truth. Wink, wink. But when I say MVP, like I said, most valuable player on this team, it's Ben Roethlisberger. And on Saturday, you're going to find out why, because we're still going to be in the game, even without Le'Veon Bell. Smoking Jim Frazier could play running back on Saturday, and we're still going to be in that game as long as Big Ben suits up. So that's what's on my mind. The real MVP is Big Ben, the player you could at least afford to lose. Troy Polamalu's been out for most of the season. He's been non-existent. This is his last year. I don't even know where he's at. He's like the ghost of Sparta. But, like I said, number 7 is and will be the MVP of this team until the day he retires, a Pittsburgh Steeler. And that's what's on my mind. Happy New Year. See you in January.
Zach, that's brilliant. And I respect your opinion that that's what your feelings are. But again, on a team where a quarterback's your greatest player, maybe in Steeler history, how do you not have the respect of your other players when they vote on a secret ballot? And I may just leave it at that. So we'll go from there. 'Cause we could. I agree to disagree because we'll do this forever. But he's already proven what he's about. Greatest quarterback in Steeler history. But he hasn't won 4 Super Bowls yet because you need a team to do it. But that's what was on my mind. Smoking Jim Frazier, what's on your mind?
Thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. And if you want the green,
Hold it, wait, buddy.
Woo!
I saved this just for
yeah,
you.
You got
Here
to
it is,
see
folks.
Levine. Yeah, thank you, buddy. Hey, look, it matches.
You can't. Easy. Chip, you're in the middle.
But hey, I'd like to start off with a little trivia. You guys can think about it and answer it before the end of the show. What is the only running back in NFL history, or should I say, who is the only running back in NFL history, if you combine their college and professional career, only one career fumble? So let that roll around in your noggin a little bit.
Le'Veon Bell.
Al Levine, the talking machine, got it. Even with a hyperextended
Hold
knee.
it. Wait a second. Another trivia. He's the only running back to do this. No fumble and gain the yards he did in 1 year.
And I tell you
In
what,
NFL history.
and not to fumble after a hyperextended knee. That was pretty good, too. But listen, the Pittsburgh Steelers starting running back is a practice squad guy named Josh Harris. And I would rather have Josh Harrison running the football for me rather than this guy. But here's on a serious note. Pitt hired the right guy for the wrong job. And I'll repeat it.
Oh my God.
Pitt
Did you
hired,
say white guy?
Pitt hired the right guy for the wrong job. What does these colleges have in common?
Just pass this down to Zach because he needs a sugar
Little
fix.
Z.
Yeah, please.
I just blew my
His
nose.
other one dropped on the floor.
No, I didn't. What does these colleges have in common? And this is a rhetorical question. I looked that up before. Marshall University, BYU, Boise State, Oregon, or Stanford. All of these were losing programs that used the high-powered offense and the high-scoring offense to turn their program around. There are only 2 things that I look for when I'm choosing a football coach for college. And the most important thing is business, little z. How much money is the football team generating? The University of Pittsburgh is beginning to consider tarping off the whole top portion of Heinz Field Stadium because Pitt is only averaging less than 30,000 fans in a 66,000-seat arena. So if the average ticket price of a Pitt Panther game is $50, Pitt is losing close to $2 million per home football game. With 6 home games, that's $12 million a year. Now, the second thing that I look for in a coach, and the final thing, is can he coach? Now, if you look at programs like Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan, yay, and Penn State,
Hardball.
listen, they would sell out if Aaron Ward was the head coach and Devin Shea was the offensive coordinator.
Well, no
those
disrespect to those
programs
great
would
people.
still sell out. So guys like Dave Wanstead, Paul Chris, and Pat Narduzzi would make better fits in those type of programs. And just to wind this thing up, Pat Narduzzi is a defensive guru. Great defensive coach. He'll stay at Pitt 4 or 5 years, but he will not significantly increase ticket sales. Now, because offense is the show, people want to be entertained. And finally, Baylor brought in an offensive guru and turned loose RG3. Now Bryce Petty, quarterbacks, broke all RG3's records. You cannot get a ticket for a home game at Baylor.
What's the seating capacity?
Number 2, and here's a good question that you're coming to. Number 2, who cared about Texas A&M before Johnny Manziel? Now that Texas A&M that holds 105,000, you cannot get a ticket at Texas A&M, and Pitt cannot sell out a 66,000 seat pro football stadium, and they're canceling their spring game last year. So again, like I said, Pitt hired the right guy for the wrong school. Should have went after an offensive guru.
They didn't. I've asked my elders whenever they were even in their prime, they weren't packing the stadium over in Oakland.
They rarely sold out.
Yeah, so I don't want to hear that.
Let me ask you this.
And you know that.
Let me ask you this, and take this back to your elders. Baylor's never sold out. Baylor's never sold out until they got the right coach and they turned RG3 loose. Texas A&M was one of the worst programs in the history of college football in 105,000.
Let the debate begin.
I beg to differ because
not Baylor,
Texas A&M.
Not Baylor, though.
No, Texas
But
A&M
not
for
Baylor.
years, the 12th man. Did you ever hear about
That
the
is
12th
true.
man?
That is true.
Texas
Good point.
A&M is
Good
always
point.
packed in
But
there.
not Baylor.
They're crazy
And you
about
have a
football in
point
Texas
there.
for starters.
Yeah,
They're crazy about
It's a whole
football.
different thing.
It is. It's a whole
Not
different
FMU.
ball game.
Not
All right, we got
Moving
enough.
on.
We got enough of that. Let's get the Chip the Prophet Hayner. What's on your mind?
First thing that's on my mind is I want to thank Zach and Jim
This coach
and
is
Alan
good.
for a really good 2014. We had a great year here at Pittsburgh Sportsline. I want to wish all of our faithful viewers and fans a happy, a healthy, and a prosperous 2015. I thought I said something that was of significance.
No, he got the green on his nose. He had to wipe that green icing off his
But,
nose.
That should have
Good
been the
now.
first tell.
He's
know-
good. You're good.
You know, sitting here and looking back at all the things that we've discussed and all the things that we've commended and the things that we've condemned, of course, over the course of the year, I feel very fortunate to be a fan of the Pittsburgh sports franchises in general. Okay, all three of them. Yesterday was Sunday marked the end of the NFL season, and yesterday actually I think really marks the true end of the NFL season because yesterday was Black Monday. And Black Monday happens the Monday after the final game of the season, and that's where all of the unfortunate coaches that have driven the bus into the ditch get fired. And some very, very good coaches lost their jobs on Monday. You know, you had Rex Ryan at the Jets, who's, he's a good coach. He had 4 good years with the, he had 2 good years with the Jets and 4 bad ones. He and his GM didn't seem to see eye to eye, so they got rid of both of them. Jim Harbaugh wore out his welcome in San Francisco.
What name did you say?
Subsequently,
Did you say Harbaugh?
he's no longer with the team. You had the debacle in Chicago. You had coach killer Jay Cutler, who got the coach and the GM fired. The biggest waste of $127 million that I've seen in NFL history. And then you had one of the most successful coaches over the last 6 years, Mike Smith down in Atlanta, whose record was 66-46 in 6 years. And he got shown the exit sign because of 2 bad seasons.
Operation Shutdown.
Well, it could be a lot of things. One of the things that this is leading me to touch on is that I was looking up, to kind of get a little background material on what I was going to talk about right now. Looking at the 6 most successful NFL franchises over the last, I'd say, maybe 10 to 15 years, okay, are all teams that have had the same coach. You've got the Giants, you've got the Steelers, you've got I'm drawing blanks here.
Arizona?
You've got no. You've got the Saints. You've got
That's Peyton. Sean Payton.
Cincinnati.
And Cincinnati is on a four playoff game straight, 4 years in a row. But my point is that to look at the way the Rooneys run the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we've had 3 coaches since 1969. And since 1969, I don't think any NFL team has had the degree of success that the Pittsburgh Steelers have. evidenced by the
They
fact that
actually counted from 1970 as the stats they used.
well, no, I
For
use
certain
69
reasons.
because
No,
that's when Chuck Noll got hired. Okay,
Right.
So we've won 6 world championships, which nobody else seems to have been able to do. And I think one of the things for NFL franchises is to solidify the program by having a constant there, keeping your coaching staff intact. You can argue with them whether it's a smart move or a dumb move, but Chuck Noll didn't have 22 winning seasons for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had a number of seasons where he had sub 500 years. We didn't get rid of him, and subsequently, look what he did. He left the cupboard stocked for Bill Cowher, and for him to make a run in
as
the
all
90s,
Steeler coaches do for the
as
next
all
one when they
Steeler
quit.
coaches
Right.
do. Bill Cowher went 3 years after all of Chuck Noll's players retired. Bill Cowher had 3 years where he had sub 500 teams. I do remember a 5-11 season.
Yes.
Bill Cowher didn't get fired and subsequently turned the team around and brought us to the success that we had in the early 2000s, followed up by Mike Tomlin, who had inherited an excellent
Couple
team,
years
and
later.
he's continued. But the thing is, these teams they cave in to public opinion. And, the people complain, and, we got to change the coach. And look how successful that's been for the Cleveland Browns. How many coaches have they had since
many
1999?
quarterbacks?
22.
Too many.
22.
Too many.
Really?
22 starting quarterbacks for the Cleveland Browns, and that's a testament to the lack of drafting skills and the lack of a continuity in coaching. But
That's front office there.
yeah, it's everything.
Ownership.
It's a disaster. But my point being, we're very fortunate here in Pittsburgh. We consider an 8-8 season. What does Zach use? Abysmal.
He found that because in his Funkin' Wagnalls, it's right in the beginning.
And so 8-8 is if it's as bad as it gets for us, then you know what? I'll suffer through a couple of those. Steelers are 11-5 this year. They won the division, first time since 2010, I believe, that they've won the division, and they've got a good outlook for the playoffs this year. I look for them to go deep, even though Le'Veon Bell has been injured, and the injury itself is a bone bruise. And they said the only problem with a bone bruise is there is no treatments that they can do for a bone bruise. The only thing that heals a bone bruise is rest. Now, does that mean that Le'Veon Bell won't play this weekend? I wouldn't be too surprised to see him in the backfield getting the ball handed off. There's no structural damage. I think they put a brace on it. They give him a painkilling injection. I think he could still play. Or if they choose not to and they feel that we can beat the Ravens, which I think we can without him, rest him this week so that we got him for the following week. But those are the things that's on my mind. I love the way the Steelers run their organization. Continuity in the coaching staff and the front office, that's the key.
Brothers don't like to play in pain.
Some do.
That's why they have painkilling
Some
No
injections.
pain, no gain.
That's why they have painkilling injections.
Some do. And those opinions are only those of Smoking
To give
Jim
a-
Frazier, who
to-
we finally called him up before the show.
To give a shout
and he
out-
proved he's right again.
To give a fact real quick, I want to interject since we don't really revisit afterwards. The Miami Dolphins have not made the playoffs since they had Dave Wannstedt as their head coach.
Good point.
Yeah, but one thing that Dave Wannstedt has proven time and time again.
I'm
that
pro
he's-
Wannstedt, so thank you for the stat.
He's a lousy head coach. He was a great
Stash.
defensive coordinator, but he won
Yeah.
nothing as a head coach.
Yeah,
And-
Chicago.
Well,
and Miami.
moving forward here.
What's on your mind, I mean?
What's on my mind is I'm thankful that I could produce a show, be on a show, and have conversation like this. It's not your normal average conversation on TV. This is sort of what goes off air, behind the scenes, what you're talking about in the bar, what you're talking about with your friends when you're busting somebody's kahunas and stuff like that.
On the Tannin Salon.
Well, in the tannin salon, the tan is faded. But on a more serious note, I want to thank you guys for helping me to win this award. That it was falsely put out that I was producer of the year. I only had that 2 years in a row. I know they can't get a close-up
Should have
of
been
this
3.
because one of the other award winners, I don't know if I can mention his name, John the Tiger Kiger, is out celebrating his cross-country tour for winning an award 2 years in a row. So this was a special producer award, and it was for recognition of his prolific producer efforts. creating 145 programs, so including ours with Pittsburgh Sports
Tell
Line.
Smoking
did some
Jim
other
what
shows.
prolific means.
It means it's like Mel Blunt. You have to change the rules when you play the game.
No, I think they had to change the name of the award.
They might have to do that. And since we're going to be talking a lot of Steelers, and you already heard some of the debates about MVP and everything else, my thing, it's like elections. It's a popularity contest, and we're going to go into some Steeler talk and maybe some Penguins and whatever's on our mind as we flow through the last 38 minutes of the show. But we're going to get to one of the segments. We have a few segments here for any of you that are new. You can call in at any time, 412-831-3304. And this is live, so you'll be on. We're going to go with Fiction and Fact from Smoking Jim's Almanac.
It'll be real quick today.
No, take your time. Go way back or something.
Yeah, I'm going to go all the way back till November of 2011. That particular year, Clareton Bears was playing at Heinz Field, and there wasn't no Bishop Guilfoyle on that day. But
They're on the other side of the state.
But Clareton had a great player on that team named Trenton Cole, about 6'3", 190 pounds. This guy, in his career at Clareton, they went 47-1, won 3 state championships. Didn't have to forfeit any.
Nope.
But
A lot of
some
controversy on
great
that.
It was in single A.
Some great teams had to forfeit their championships. But anywho,
What year?
All of them.
But in 2011, Trenton Coles was the two-time. At that point, he was two-time state 100 and 200-meter dash champion. Being recruited by every school in the country, was the only time Clareton had a kicker. He was a very good field goal and extra point kicker, even though he kicked straight on, old school. And this guy, not only was he one of the fastest in state history, but his mama was a state champion sprinter, and his grandfather won the 100-meter dash in state. So he came from great genes. And the one thing about Clareton was they just had so many great players. He was just head and shoulders, probably media-wise, because he had just recently gave a verbal to Pitt. So after the game, they beat a pretty good Rochester team, I believe, that day. And I go into the locker room, and I talked to Coach Tom Nola. And I wanted to get a quote for the newspaper. And so I asked him, I said, Coach, what was the difference between your team and this great Rochester team? And he looked at me just like Al Levine is looking at me right now. And he says, the difference is we got Tyler Boyd and they don't. And I almost fell out. I'm like, who? I mean, Tyler Boyd at that time was he was just one of many players that was running up and down the field that had so many good ones. I'm like, he didn't say Trenton Coles.
You never talk about Desmond Green.
And lo behold, and yeah, the quarterback, Desmond Green, was
With the
great, yeah, but he first went to Texas Tech, but he didn't have the grades to stay there more than a month. But but he got
Don't
a general.
be a hater.
But
This
he's
is
a
the
general.
last
He got
year.
his general.
Hey, he's a cow now.
But and after that, Tyler Boyd went on the next year and finished his career with over 123 touchdowns. But Tom Nola and most of these coaches would never single out a guy, especially an underclassman, when they had an All-American senior. He said, looked me in the eye and says, we got Tyler Boyd and they don't. So he's seen the greatness even way back then.
I knew somehow you were going to slip Tyler Boyd in there.
Hey, anytime Smoking Jim Frazier talks good about Clareton, man, it's a good night.
Can I get a T-shirt from Bishop Guilfoyle?
No.
A Bishop Guilfoyle T-shirt.
You didn't promote him enough. Thanks, Smoking Jim. Let's go to Chip's Trivia Time.
Thank you, Alan. Tonight I was thinking long and hard this afternoon what kind of a trivia would be appropriate. And being that the Steelers have made the playoffs after an absence of 3 years, I got to little light went off in my head. You know, this year is actually the 40th anniversary of the Pittsburgh Steelers' first Super Bowl championship winning team.
Wow.
And the thing that made me think of this was I also watched a program on the NFL Network. It was called Football Life, and it was the story of Joe Green. Something that I had forgotten about, not many people remember, is that in December, beginning of December, the Steelers of that year, the Steelers really stunk up the stadium against the Houston Oilers, and Joe Green had decided that he was going to quit. He packed up his locker, put everything in a duffel bag, and he was getting ready to head out of town. Fortunately, one of the coaches took Joe aside, sat down in the car with him, talked him into sticking around for a little while, and history was written. But some of the things that that fascinated me about the 1974 Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, now this was in a 26-team league. The NFL had only 26 teams at this time. They only played a 14-game season. Mm-hmm. So I was looking at how did this team stack up to the rest of the teams in the NFL, because we were ultimately the champions. Okay. Our passing offense was ranked number 21 in the NFL, and we passed for 1,958 yards for the entire season. Now, not all of that was Terry Bradshaw's, because if you remember, Bradshaw didn't start. Gillum started. Terry Hanratty played. Terry Bradshaw almost got shown the exit door, but Noel stuck with him. Lo and behold, for receiving touchdowns for the team that year, we had 12. Well, Antonio Brown had more than that himself this year. The yards per game in the passing offense was 139.9. There was 21 interceptions thrown. So 12 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. We weren't very efficient in our passing offense back then. For a completion percentage of 43%. Now, 43% completion percentage is just slightly above Johnny Manziel's. Okay, so what was the strength of the Steelers?
He's still partying in Cleveland.
So what was the strength of the team in Pittsburgh in that year?
Defense.
And I would have to go to the rushing offense. We were ranked number 2 in the NFL in rushing offense that year. Frenchie Fuqua, Rocky Blyer, Franco Harris carrying the load. We rushed for 2,417 yards. We ran for 19 touchdowns. We averaged 172.6 yards rushing per game. Wow. The number 1 rushing team that season was the Dallas Cowboys. Our scoring offense was ranked number 6 in the NFL at 21.8 points a game. And we had scored 4 touchdowns by other means. 1 on a punt return, 1 on a fumble return, and 2 by interception. And that gets me to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, the other strength of the team. The Steelers defense was ranked number 2 overall that year. The number 1 ranked defense was the Los Angeles Rams. Really? Yes, sir. We allowed 189 points that year, and the Rams had allowed 181. We were number 1 in the yards allowed. We had only given up 3,074 yards in offense against our defense for the season. Passing yards allowed were 1,466, rushing yards 1,608, which ranked 6th in the NFL. So we didn't even have the best rushing defense. Our passing defense was ranked number 1. We only gave up 14 touchdown passes over the course of the full season. The playoff teams that year were the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Raiders, and the Buffalo Bills were the wild card team. That was our first team that we beat in the round of the playoffs. Okay. The St. Louis Cardinals, the Vikings, the Los Angeles Rams, and the Redskins. Redskins were the wild card team.
St. Louis who?
St. Louis Cardinals. Mm-hmm. So, we ended up playing the Raiders in the AFC Championship game, beat them, and then we slapped around the Minnesota Vikings, giving them 1 of their 4 defeats in the Super Bowl. But, those were some statistics about the team that started our Super Bowl run. The 1974 Steelers, congratulations to turning Pittsburgh into Title Town.
Very good, Chip. Now we're going to go to Z time, and I'm glad he got that MVP stuff behind him. So, Z, what do you got now on Z time?
You don't want to talk anymore about the MVP of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
That horse is dead.
I know, because it's a popularity contest.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to give you a little known fact about popularity contest, Al Levine. Back in 2001, I came up one vote short of being class president of my class.
That's why
at
I
Still
set
Valley
that
High
up
School.
with popularity.
Little known, I was little known at the time, pretty much. I kind of like was fading to the back or whatever, but still got a loud voice, as Jim Frazier knows. I ran up against a guy named Luke Getzey, who would go on to do great things a little bit at the University of Pitt, then went on to Akron and lit it up. Didn't do anything in the pros to note, but had a promising career in coaching, which he set himself off on, and now he's a quality control coach with the Green Bay Packers. And to bring a point, Levine, about popularity, though, a lot of people voted for Mr. Getzey over Mr. Brenner, but Mr. Getzey left and hasn't been back to the area since, and subsequently Mr. Brenner is in the neighborhood every day. So what I say to you, Levine, is in this popularity contest, I may have lost it in 2001, but if we had to go back and take a vote today, I would win in a landslide because I help most of these people every day on a daily basis with Brenner contracting. So, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. Shout out to Luke. Hopefully we don't have to meet the Packers at any point. I don't want to go up against Greenfield's own McCarthy or Still Valley's own Getzey. But, like I said, in that popularity contest, Levine, sometimes, you have to earn the respect. And I guess what you're saying is Ben hasn't earned the respect of his peers, and I have. So I guess I'll give myself another pat on the back like I love to do. But
Please don't hurt yourself, because, the way you're tossing those big paws around, you might hurt Smoking
Hey,
Jim
Richard
and
Nixon
you.
didn't win his first election.
Abraham Lincoln didn't
George
either.
George Phillips didn't win his first election either.
Wow.
So
Well, you know what? I'm glad you're bringing up history at Steel Valley. I'm proud of you. I'm glad we met under crazy
dire
circumstances. I'm glad you're on board. And I believe in shameless promotions. And if you can't promote yourself, who can you promote? So I'm glad you lost that election, because who knows with that ego that you have where you would be now. And I heard about a guy named Pete running through the neighborhoods, so I know we would have never met. So I think my lessons are sinking in pretty deep, because you realize the game's not over in high school. Matter of fact, it didn't even start for some people.
correct. So
Welcome aboard the Pittsburgh Sports Line for almost your 2-year anniversary. Not quite.
man.
And
What a
that's
run.
Z time. That's it.
it.
We just shot a bunch of time. I'm going to go to our on location. I don't think they can get another close up, but we're going to be at Atria's PNC Park, January 5th. We got so many guests. Smoking Jim just added Kenny O. He's going to be our last guest, Zach, because he
man, I
can
love
out-talk
Kenny O.
me. So we're going to have a governor on him. I don't know how much time we'll get. We've got a bunch of great guests. Come on out for the Talking Machine Big Mouth Burger. The food's great. Even if you don't eat that, it's a great
Hopefully-
environment.
Hopefully, one of these appearances by Kenny O, he follows through and follows up on some of these things.
Well, I just want to tell everybody, announce on Pittsburgh Sportsline that we don't need cameramen anymore. We have permission to use the $5,000 camera that Dave Cable has. So we'll be taking photos with that in studio, outside of studio. So Smoking Jim, quit trying to bring guys on that take a lot of pictures, but I can't find them.
I'm still waiting for my Mel Blunt picture.
And we'll talk about that another day. Let's dig right into the Steelers. I'm just throwing this up to you guys. Talk Steelers right now. Let's go. Last 24 minutes here.
Talk Steelers. I mean, I think it's only fitting that we end up playing the Baltimore Ravens. And if we're going to play anybody anywhere, I think at Heinz Field we have a decided advantage. It'll be an interesting get-together on Saturday evening because those games are usually memorable. We did a pretty good job of beating them on November 2nd.
Don't expect 6 touchdown passes.
I don't expect 6
Thank
touchdown
you.
passes. But, one of the things that the Ravens got coming back for them for this game that they haven't had for the last 4 is Haloti Ngata. And Haloti Ngata,
a beast.
he is an animal. Blocking it. He is what makes their pass rush possible because he takes up 2 or 3 blockers in the center, which allows their linebacking core to be able to make a lot of plays. So,
And I hope he doesn't distract Pouncey, so he gets he can't hike the ball, or he hikes it 2 seconds early. Nobody expected it. Hopefully he doesn't get in his head.
The one thing I'm not going to do this year, because we've done this quite a bit over the last few years, I'm not going to criticize the Steelers' offensive line. I think that's the one unit that showed significantly more improvement this year over last year.
Exactly. That's what I'm
They're playing a
saying.
real defense.
Chip, I appreciate you being a diplomat on it. I still I got to dive right into this. The tackles. I love the 3 in the middle of the field, and I love the tight end who's a Hall of Famer, Heath Miller, in the backfield, and I love a running back. I don't care if it's even Dre Archer, and he can't block anybody because they're running over him. But they need that help. And have they gotten away and done better? Yes. There's been improvement, but Pouncey's also healthy this year.
I haven't got a chance since I came straight from building a wall this evening.
Where
It was
did you build it
rumored
at?
this morning. I was listening to on the radio that they were bringing in Tate that used to play
They
with
signed
the
him.
They
Browns.
signed
Did
him.
they
He
sign
signed.
Tate?
Yeah,
So
they-
Tate-
Ben
Well,
Tate.
they signed
Tate
him
will
as
be
the
in
backup.
Don't hate Ben Tate.
So if they decide that it would not be in their best interest to play
In his
Le'Veon
best
Bell this
interest,
weekend,
too.
because you got to think about Le'Veon Bell's a young man, and he's.
He's 22. That's young.
Yes, it
He just
is,
said
and he's one of the best running backs in the NFL. Some people could argue that he is, but with running backs in the NFL, you're going to get 3 or 4 good years out of them, and then the beating they take just knocks them
But
out of
there's
the game.
exceptions to the rule. There's greats. You got Emmett Smith,
Franco.
Right.
Franco,
But
Curtis Martin. Like there's guys that have made careers getting into the Hall of Fame with longevity. Some have never even won Super Bowls.
And with the way the rules are in football, and I'm glad you brought that up, and that kind of gets me right into here. You look at what happened to Le'Veon Bell Sunday night. That was a completely legal hit that was made on him. But with the changes in the rules, now the defensive players have to target players' knees. I'm somebody that's had 3 knee surgeries, and I've got continuing knee problems I'll have for the rest of my life. I don't like to see them going after people's knees. I think you need your knees for your livelihood, and I think I hate seeing hits like that, but it's legal, and they're playing within the rules of the game. But
Le'Veon Bell ran him over early in the
Do you
first
think
quarter.
that hit on Heath Miller was legal in the end zone when he was defenseless
No.
and the guy took a shot on him?
It's just because he's so big and we're the Steelers. They let it go. Big Ben got hit a couple times when he should have been a flag on it.
how about that forearm that Mike Mitchell threw to A.J. Green, knocked him out of the game?
That's illegal.
But the
We get away with 1 to 3.
but to get back onto the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the same week that Blunt walked off on the Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Tate walked out on the Cleveland Browns, and now the Pittsburgh Steelers, Benedict Arnolds, is signing Ben Tate, the guy who's been absolutely a problem everywhere he's been. But I guess that's what
I wanted Ray Rice.
Did you?
Yeah.
that'd have been great.
I wanted
he's
Ray Rice.
available.
He knows about Baltimore. Who
Yeah.
knows more about Baltimore than Ray
yeah,
Rice?
that's a good
We
point.
know more about Baltimore. That's the problem. We know it. Don't even worry about that.
But I think-
the problem is how they play.
Ray Rice would have been not been a smart pick because the guy hasn't played football all year. You don't get ready to play in a playoff caliber game without any practice, without any conditioning. One thing about Ben Tate, he played a full season. Subsequently, it was for a couple of teams, and he is a problem. And long term, I
How
don't
does
think
he play on the field, though?
Yeah, wait. For long term, definitely not.
He played
the answer
good
to
in
anything.
Texas.
But if you need him for a game, he can play plugged in for a game. He can block. He can get you a few tough yards.
He's smart enough
How
to
much?
pick up the
How many?
playbook.
They don't have to.
How many snaps
run
do you
to
think
that
Tate's
hole.
going to get legitimately? I think
Say he gets a half a dozen.
because I'm still under the I think the Bell is going to be a go.
Well, here's what
he's
you
gonna
guys
be a
didn't
go,
mention.
and he's going to get a couple carries. And
I-
if he looks bad, that'll be the end of
I
him.
posted it on Facebook. James Harrison is a freak of nature, but he has a hyperbaric
I seen that. I
oxygen
like that.
chamber.
Yeah.
Heinz Ward taught him about
Yeah.
it. That's how you stay healthy. You infuse so much oxygen in your body. that it purifies your body much quicker. You heal faster, let alone whatever else, vitamins and nutrition they give him, because they do that. He won't have to take a cortisone shot, which could end his career.
Did
with an injury like that.
Le'Veon Bell sign his second contract yet?
He didn't get done his first.
Thank you. So he's not going to play. But that's a great point. There's no way he's playing. If he was my son or my little brother,
you know how many times Ben played hurt?
Yeah, but he's on $100 million contract.
The whole game. You got to give him credit for that.
But matchups and Chip and Al can speak to this better than me. Probably the greatest Pittsburgh Steelers team of all time was the 1976 Steelers team.
Yes.
Correct.
And when the Pittsburgh Steelers humiliated the Baltimore Colts in the first round of the playoffs, the game was over in 2.5 hours. Good thing, because if it would have lasted 2 hours and 45 minutes, probably 10,000 people would have got killed because a plane crashed into the stadium.
Yep.
So, but everybody was out of there because the Steelers just ran it down their
Thank
throats.
God for the Steelers win.
And thank goodness that the game ended in 2.5 hours. But they lost Franco Harris and Rocky Blair that day.
Yes, they did.
So they had no hope in Oakland. They got killed. And I think that without the threat, you can't take 80 receptions out of your offense. And the way that guy runs, he's a 3-down back. So you have to replace him with probably 3 players. And you're asking a kid from the practice squad,
I like it.
to play against.
Where did James Harrison come from?
Here, let him finish his point. We'll start
Well,
the debate.
let me
I don't
ask
know where he's
this
going.
is one question I have, and if you
Okay.
can answer this question, little Z, I won't say anything negative about the Pittsburgh Steelers the rest of this year.
That isn't going to happen.
Tell me how Dre Archer is going to block Suggs.
He's not.
He's not. And being the assistant head coach of the Pittsburgh Gladiators, I can tell you right now
another
what's gonna
shameless
happen.
promotion.
I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen. What's going to happen is the
Another
formations
lineman.
are going to shift. Two tight ends are going to come in. You're going to get a fullback. You're going to get lots of help. You're going to get the tight ends chipping. Heath Miller and what's his face, number 89, Spaeth, are going to be asked to do a large part, which is going to downgrade Heath Miller in the passing game because he's going to have to be there. But who's to say that this kid, number 40, who in one of his first carries of his career went 59 yards, which that hold had nothing to do with the 59-yard run. No, it didn't, Levine. He was gone
look at it
before
again?
the man
Wait a
even got in
second.
there.
Before he crossed where the line of scrimmage was,
same way.
73 was tugging at his belly. Just held him up a half a step.
That's all you need.
And in the NFL, no matter how bad a player is on the other side, they're all parity in the NFL. But on your point with Josh Harris, here's what I like, Smoking Jim. I have to disagree with you to a point. How does a guy on the practice squad do well? Because he's been practicing with the team. He knows the plays. They're coaching him. And the other thing, he has what's great at the end of the season, fresh legs. Everybody that's played, you've played till you got hurt and whatever, you forfeited a whole season. But that's neither here nor there.
But let us
But fresh legs help. And if you know a few plays, we'll be fine.
I'll tell you what, the one thing that I say gives the Steelers a chance over the Ravens, besides Ben Roethlisberger, is the fact that the Ravens secondary isn't any better than the Steelers secondary. Their secondary has been lacking all year. Yes,
And hold it, you got to go back in history now. Check the film and all the tapes and videos where Smoking Jim's on the record saying the greatest linebacker in history is Ray, the Reverend Ray in the white suit. They'll never win again without him.
That's true.
So, I mean, he's on the record.
Never win another Super Bowl without Ray.
Exactly.
But I've already called in my opinion.
What happened?
Is that they'll win Saturday night.
They're going to win. Baltimore's going to win. Well, I'll go on the record.
Pipe lock.
I'm on a hot streak with 11-5. Picking 11-5. Steelers will end up 12-5 after Saturday night.
Okay, I'm going to take the Steelers. I am going to take the Steelers against the Ravens. And just because I like to fire up my friend Jim over here, here's my upset of the week.
Okay.
Carolina Panthers are going to take down the Cardinals.
No way.
He put the money
You
in.
heard it here.
We got to get a
Mark my
friend,
words.
friend book. We got to get a friend bet. Put your buck up.
Put it up.
I got it.
I'll hold it for you.
I got you. Yeah.
I'll
Now,
hold the buck.
the genius is going to be. He's going to be exposed.
Zach, since we're predicting, I'll
He's
just
gonna be
count you in as
exposed
a
this
Steeler
Saturday.
victory.
I can't think of a single time in 30 years on Earth that I ever bet against my team.
Hold it. I'm just checking with Lois right now. What kind of baby was he? Did he talk early? Did he know sports right away? Or how was that diaper?
Did he have a beard?
Right out the gate. He had a beard and an Iron
We
City.
know that's not true. I saw a couple baby pictures. He's a baby-faced beast. Shave that beard off now. We'll do it on the show.
The hair was up here. It moved down. It moved a little south on him.
Shave that off, and he's still. He looks like a teenager underneath that beard. Steelers a win then?
Yeah, oh, without
Okay,
a
just
doubt.
checking with you because
Without
you've
a
been
doubt.
talking.
Because, like I said, you have
So
the
you said,
MVP
okay, well,
under center.
let's
I
make
got
our
the
picks
mi-
on the
I got
playoffs.
the minority vote.
Yeah,
Always.
But I say the Carolina Panthers are going to take apart the Cardinals.
I got
The
Cardinals.
Cowboys are going to beat the Lions, and
Oh yeah,
And,
I agree on the Cowboys.
and,
Cardinals. I got to go with the genius.
I'm not sold on that.
Right.
Hold on a second.
And
Hold on a
the
second.
I made my pick.
I
I'm
got
not
the
sold.
Seahawks.
I'm not
I
sold.
know. I mean,
No.
no, I got the Colts beating the Bengals.
You know what time of the year it is? And you guys are picking the Cowboys. Let's
Hold it. Did you miss
see what
December?
Tony
What
Romo.
happened
Let's
this
see
year?
what Tony Romo's going to do with a crucial snap. Is
I
he
don't-
still the holder?
I don't think it's a problem
Zach,
this year.
Zach, let me tell you something. Tony Romo surprised everybody this year. He actually took my fantasy team to the championship this year.
He's all in.
That's why Chip likes him.
Hey,
Any
man.
given moment he can implode.
Yeah,
Hey, we all like being a front runner. If you get somebody that's a front runner,
Now the thing
stay
that
with
made
it.
the thing that made Tony Romo, a good quarterback this year, and I've done nothing but criticize him his whole career, was DeMarco Murray. You got a running back that leads the league in rushing, set records, Cowboy records for most rushing yards. You know, it's funny how much better a quarterback looks when he's got an All-Pro running back.
Except for
opening
Big
up the
Ben.
passing lanes.
Just
for
so
him.
I got to say this, except for Big Ben, because I don't want to debate. I'm teasing, Joe. Just teasing.
Well, I mean, Zach, I know he's going to do his
No,
dying
he's
breath.
not.
He's going to say
I appeased
Ben
him.
is the MVP, but I think the only thing that opened up the passing game and allowed Bren to break records this year with the passing offense was Le'Veon Bell.
Well, plus he contributed 80 catches.
And 850 yards.
Yeah, if you can dump a ball off, think about it. That dink and dunk, I wasn't a true believer in it because I didn't know how they'd replace Hines Ward.
Well, I tell you
Sorry.
what, Pittsburgh Steelers are probably the only organization, and you'll like this, Little Z, is that they can lose a receiver that caught 101 passes and nobody missed him. I couldn't
Who?
hardly remember his name today. Emmanuel Sanders. And the
He never
Steelers-
got 101 passes here.
No, but he did this year.
Okay, yeah, but not as a
I have a
Steeler.
question for you since you're an NFL
He dropped
scout.
101.
Do they have hand transplants? Because his hands were stone. Okay?
Yeah, not for anybody.
But let me
Let
just
us-
finish.
we
Let me
gotta
just
finish
finish
that
this.
thought. It may
As
not
far
last
as
long.
as long.
I took a lot of heat in 2012 when I had Andrew Luck as the number 2 quarterback in that draft, and I had RG3 out of the top 10. And the number 1 quarterback I had was Russell Wilson, and everybody says he can't play in this league. Russell Wilson will win his second Super Bowl this year. Nobody's laughing at me today.
Yeah, and you know what? Seattle will probably be there. I tell you what, I look at Seattle and Green Bay playing in the NFC Championship game, and right there you can flip a coin on them.
Well, Seattle got some guys that will step on your leg.
Yeah, well,
I got Aaron Rodgers in the
See,
pack.
I lost
Back
my
is
train
back.
of thought because of that. It's like, that just
You're
went
the
nowhere.
youngest here,
I lost my
probably.
train of thought.
You're probably
And two,
the youngest
I just
here.
remembered real quick that if he goes with Seattle, that means he's already lost faith in the genius, who's not actually a genius out in Arizona.
Well,
so.
you can't play with a 3rd and 4th string quarterback, but you
know.
can win this weekend, not against Seattle.
He got
But
heavy money. Let's
but the
pipe.
genius ran Harbaugh out of San Francisco.
That's what I was going to ask.
And
How-
if the coach for Seattle is smart, he'll get out
What
after
kind
this
of
year.
message? What kind of message does that send in the ranks of coaching when you can have the type of success that Jim Harbaugh accrued in San Francisco and still be let go. You know,
Did
like
you listen about
Jim
Mike Smith?
Harbaugh is responsible for running Jim Harbaugh out of San Francisco.
Zach, you missed his Mike Smith in Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
They average 11 wins a year.
They were
and
willing
he's
to
out of a
trade
job.
him at the end of the season if they didn't resign and get a better job. I mean, they were willing to entertain offers to trade their head coach. That's how well he was liked
$8
there.
million
He still
dollars
won,
to coach
though.
fo-
He
coach
still won
college.
though. What?
Yeah.
What?
He was a winner. He's a winner.
He's a cancer
Great.
in the
He
locker
took
room.
him. The cancer in the locker room that took you to the NFC Championship
He's like
game, took you
you.
to the Super
3 in a
Bowl.
row.
You
He
know
likes
what?
players like you. If you browbeat them, then they perform better. Most guys don't do that.
If Mike Singletary wouldn't have stocked the shelves for him, he wouldn't have done anything.
Yeah, he did stock.
You need the horses. No matter what game you're playing,
Well-
got to have those horses.
Well, always remember he went to San Diego University,
And he
where
went to
they never
Stanford.
win, where they never win, and he turned that program around, turned Stanford around, and I'm on record as saying this: within 2 years, not only will he dominate college football, but the Big Ten will be considered a better conference than the SEC. You heard it here first.
Smoking
They got a
Jim,
lot of work to do.
I think if he has one good year, he'll do what all the college coaches do: break their contract and go somewhere
No,
else.
you know what?
He'll go to the pros again.
I have to disagree with you because
Depending on what
I
job.
know Jim
That's
Harbaugh.
why I'm saying it.
I know Jim Harbaugh a little bit.
4 years.
And this is what I know about Jim Harbaugh. And I was at Heinz Field, Three River Stadium, when they should have beat the Steelers.
Wow, you're older than I thought.
When they should have beat the Steelers.
You're older
When the
than I
Steelers,
thought.
when the Steelers went to.
See, we're
You
starting
mean
to
when they
find
beat
out.
the Hall of Fame head coach, Bill Cowher?
Yeah, when that Hail Mary pass with Darren Perry, is the only black man that can't jump. He couldn't get an
How do
inch
you
off
know
the
these
ground.
things?
But anywho,
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh is actually better fit for college. And I think that the San Diego job was a stepping stone. Stanford was obviously, he wanted to get into the NFL. He's seen the NFL, but you got to realize, I think that your boy would still be in college if he didn't cheat for USC. I mean,
Pete Carroll.
Nobody wants
That's
to go
not
from
my boy.
Nobody wants to go from Los Angeles to Seattle. He made the best of it.
He
But
likes coffee.
but one thing that Pete Carroll said, that makes a lot of sense. He said in the NFL only get one first round draft choice a year. He said in college I get 5 or 6 a year,
Well,
and
he-
that's what Jim Harbaugh's going to do.
Well,
He's
he-
going to bring in
he-
some great players. He brought in Andrew Luck.
Here's what the problem is with Harbaugh. Okay, Harbaugh, he people get sick of his act, and as the pros, his rah style,
Good point.
it's better suited for college. And here's
right.
what the thing is: that's going to make him a successful college coach. First is going to be his work ethic, but he's going to have a new roster every 4 years.
Right.
So
Good
in
point.
the NFL, you've got players that are locked into contracts, and all of a sudden you got star players getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars that don't want to play for the coach because the coach has
Right.
just rubbed them completely the wrong way. And you can't fire the team.
Yes.
You have to get rid of the
Sounds
coach.
like the Steelers early in the year.
Because you've got a lot of money involved in these guys. So he will do much better
Steelers.
in college. And
And you're
that's the
forgetting
reason why.
one thing. The most important thing. Most important thing is Bruce Arians ain't going back to college.
We got a
That
caller.
helps him.
Hello, caller. Thanks for calling in our last show of the year.
Well, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you from sunny Florida.
Who is this?
Joyce.
From sunny Florida?
We have a couple fans. This can't be the biggest fan. Come on, I had to add a little drama.
The biggest fan.
Welcome aboard. What's your question?
Well, thank you. Well, what did you guys think of the Steeler game since I can't watch you live?
You'll have to watch the tape because we just covered 35 minutes of Steelers.
Hi, Joyce.
Hey,
Hi there.
That's
how
Smoking
difficult
Jim
is it
Chip.
shoveling that
I
sunshine
did it,
down there?
Smoking Jim.
Well, I'm glad you called in because I'm all in about the Steelers winning the next game, beating Baltimore. How about you?
I'm praying.
You're praying?
I'm praying.
Okay.
Well, let's get a prediction, Joyce, on what do you think the Steelers are going to do on Saturday?
They're going to win.
Can we get a
It's
score?
going to be close. It's going to be close.
It always is against Baltimore.
What kind of score do you think?
It's going to be a nail biter.
I like that.
She takes after Jim Frazier. She just keeps stringing words along without answering the
I
question.
might have to have a bottle of Kahlua right next to me.
Pardon me, we couldn't hear you there.
I said I might have to have a bottle of Kahlua or rum sitting right there.
Yay, Joyce.
We don't condone drinking, but if you're going to drink, stay at home. Watch the Steelers and root for them to win it. They're going to win, Joyce.
I don't drink, but
Well-
I just might have to have it right next to me.
Okay.
All right.
For medicinal purposes.
Hey, thank you for calling. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for being our biggest
Thank
fan
you very
in
much for
Florida.
calling.
All right.
Take care.
We'll see you in February, Joyce.
All right.
Go Steelers. That was our biggest fan in Florida. They
great.
always,
All the way
they
from
always get
Florida.
defensive when I say, "Who are you?"
But, isn't it ironic that here we sit on December 30th of 2014, and all of us are sitting here talking about the Steelers winning a playoff game, and, we were saying they're never gonna make the playoffs again. Jim had them locked up at 8-8 this year. Zach and myself were 10-6, and the man right here picked 11-5, and you got to give
I
him
wavered.
his
No,
props.
you recanted. If we go back to the tape,
Hold
you
it. I
recanted.
wavered, but like I said, if you got to be technical, because you're all about this technicality stuff. One vote I lost.
CBA.
I lost the Getsy or whatever.
First playoff without Bruce Arians. Who would ever thunk it?
Yeah. I knew they'd break the streak. I know I thought it. I said with that easy schedule, imagine if they didn't lose.
It gets tough next year because they got to face Bruce.
Well, that's okay. I think we'll handle them. They can't get a fifth-string quarterback, can they?
I love how they gave Carson.
They're
Palmer
probably
money
going to
to
need one by halftime
Yeah.
on Saturday.
Well, we got to at least mention something about the Penguins. They had a nice streak going. Now they're on another streak called a losing streak.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, they've lost so many players.
Yeah, they're
they got
impressed.
mumps like
Yeah.
you can't believe. Smoking Jim's a doctor here. He knows the mumps hurt your game.
Besides the mumps, there's been just a laundry list of injuries to all the star players.
A plethora of
And
injuries.
and right now, I mean, in the midst of hockey season, and Pittsburgh's always going to be a football town, and we're talking playoffs here, so people don't even notice what the Penguins are or
I
are not
noticed it.
doing.
I told you.
But the Penguins will get it
what?
turned around, and how they play now doesn't matter. It's what they do in April and May. It makes all the difference. So we'll see what happens over the next few months.
Well, I'm an unusual Penguin fan. I believe you got to at least set some trends during the season. And we can't help that Smoking Jim calls a choking disease that some teams get. And I think that's what comes from a coach at times. That's the lack of leadership you may get. And you also get good leadership when you energize a team. So we have a new coach, has a nice system that seems to be working in general. He's plugging in players that never played the NHL, and they're winning games. So I'm optimistic with the Penguins.
So what do you think about Dan Bylsma? I think he may end up in New Jersey as the Devils coach. Watch what happens.
Well,
Disco
we're,
Dan.
we're out of time with Disco Dan. I wish him luck, and I hope he's flexible wherever he goes. That's
Happy
my
New
wish
Year.
for him. Z, Happy New Year. Smoking Jim Frazier, Happy New Year. Chip and Stephanie, thanks for that package of nuts that we got. Smoking Jim ate so many of them, he got 2 of them. Thanks again to Bethel Park, and especially thanks to all our fans and people watching us. Appreciate all the great feedback and things you're talking about, plus in the different locations. Again, we'll be at Atria's on January 5th and 19th. Duke's Rib House and Grill the 2nd and 4th week, so we'll be traveling around a little. That'll be our 2 steady locations. And stay tuned. We're going to have a new theme song that Sam Schmid will come up with, and we'll be announcing that shortly. Be safe. Happy New Year, and don't drink and drive.